So the Pink Starlights, they are an incredible level of love, high frequency love. They chose the pink because it represents unconditional love, and starlight, which is just brilliance, sparkles, and it's just incredible levels of light. So that's where they got their name from.
Welcome to The Reluctant Medium, where we cover the gamut of out there conversations. With an open mind and a curious heart, we want to talk about it all. From psychic phenomena and energy medicine to beings from other star systems and out-of-body experiences. You'll find a great balance between grounded science-backed topics and others that science hasn't quite caught up to yet. I'm your host, Dr. Maria Rothenberger, a psychotherapist by trade and a reluctant spirit baby communicator. And hey, even though I'm a medium, I'm not buying everything folks are selling. I just have a voracious appetite to know more about what I call the world of the weird. Join us on your favorite podcast platform or watch on YouTube at The Reluctant Medium. I'll see you there. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the Reluctant Medium podcast. I just said before we started recording that I got an email from my next beautiful guest PR person, and I didn't even read the entire thing. As soon as I saw her name, I was like, yes, when? Yes. I have the wonderful, amazing Lynsi Eastburn today. Welcome back to the podcast, Lynsi.
Hi, thank you so much. So great to be back. Can't believe that this is the third time?
This is the third time. And it's been 3 years. Ooh, there's something about the number 3. It's also 3:13 in the afternoon as I'm recording this right now.
3 is my number too.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, 3, everything 3.
What is it about 3s? Do you know the meaning of 3? What does
There's
that
a
mean?
lot of different meanings depending if it's, for numerology or whatnot, but it's always the triples, right? Triple goddess, maiden, mother, crone, past, present, future, the shaman's death, right? Birth, death, rebirth. So 3s are always the triples.
Ooh, that must be something I need to know nowadays. Very cool.
Probably so.
All right. Well, we are back today to talk about everyone's favorite topic, spirit babies. But specifically, you have published a book. Well, you did. Was it 2020 that it ended up being published?
Yeah, it was 2020.
Okay.
Right at the end, I think. God, I lose track.
Okay.
The years go by so fast.
I know they do. Waiting in the Wings, which I have told everyone about. It's an introduction to the Pink Starlights. And as a bonus this week, I will also be republishing that initial interview. But today, we have new stuff to talk about. Yeah, because the Pink Starlights won't be quiet.
That's right. It is. I'm here, but it's on behalf of the Pink Starlights. Just keep that in mind.
Yes. Yeah. So just briefly, and folks, you can listen to or watch the previous interview to find out all about Lynsi and what she does. She's a HypnoFertility. You're the creator of HypnoFertility. Right. The creator. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you have others who work under you too. But so you can listen and or watch that initial interview to find out about Lynsi. But I really want to focus heavily on the Pink Starlights today. But if we can just recap, who are the Pink Starlights?
Who are the Pink Starlights? Yes, these are wonderful beings who are coming through at this time to really help us out with the mess we've made. Our poor Earth has been sort of beaten up and ravaged, and people have taken advantage of her, and just it's just terrible what we've done in general as a species, and that has to change. So I know that you're aware of the changes that are happening as far as balance of divine feminine and sacred masculine. We're bringing that through. We have the patriarchy kind of crashing down, even though it's holding on for dear life. It doesn't matter. Hold on all you want, because we're gonna balance this. And this isn't a negative thing, of course, about men or males, but more of that archetypal balance between feminine and masculine that needs to happen. So the Pink Starlights, they're their own cohort, I guess you could say. And they have their own special mission, and they're coming through to help us elevate compassion and elevate the vibrational frequency of the planet. We have a little bit of trouble right now. I don't know if you've noticed this with doing your readings, but there's a bottlenecking of the energy. And so the beings of light, spirit babies, the pink starlights, they're trying to come. We need a lot of light here. And we have that denseness of energy, that we're in all the time. And so the pink starlights, they're coming through to bring this light, but because we're kind of bottlenecking, or because we've got so much denseness here, we have to work more to help bring them through. We need more light, basically. We need more light workers, if that makes sense.
Ooh, if you can expand on that, what can we do? So folks need to tune into their light inside, or what can we do?
Yeah, so the pink starlights, they are an incredible level of love, high frequency love. They chose the pink because it represents unconditional love, and starlight, which is just brilliance, sparkles, and it's just incredible levels of light. So that's where they got their name from. And so, yes, they're bringing in a lot of light, and we have a lot more light coming in now as we're balancing. But we do need to be able to hold the light in order to help bring it through. And so that is, in effect, becoming light workers, or activating our inner light worker, doing healings for ourselves, following our path, saying yes to shifts and changes. The pink starlights typically, not always, but typically their mothers and fathers have been on a long and kind of brutal fertility journey. So it's been years and years, or it's been lots of, unsuccessful IVF cycles, or multiple miscarriages, or other things that can happen, or, trying to get pregnant naturally and then having other things interfere. But it's gone on for a long time, and people are feeling, really disheartened, or, upset. Sometimes they'll say they feel broken. And this is essential, basically, to the pink starlight's purpose, because they need parents who are going to be open and receptive, open-minded, balanced, at least to some extent. I mean, we're not always balanced all the time, but willing to work on that. They don't have time, because of their mission. They don't have time to be parenting their parents. So it might be mom, it might be dad, it might be both, it might be all. It doesn't necessarily matter, but you're going to see something has been there. And sometimes it's trauma. It may not necessarily be a long fertility journey, but there may be trauma that has happened. Someone loses a child, or, there's there's so many traumas that can happen, a death in the family, or whatever that's really severe for them. And so this actually gets them moving forward on changing their lives. So basically, it's like you don't have to be spiritual or not spiritual, if that makes sense. People may be on a spiritual path, and they may be doing all sorts of things. They may be practitioners of, fertility type modalities, or spiritual modalities, and yet they're still dealing with this. And that's because they need to go up another level. They need to pursue more. And so some of the things they may not have pursued had their babies just shown up. Well, first off, you might take your babies for granted if they just kind of show up. And much as we love for them to just show up, and much as you would be an awesome parent, it's still, there's that much more that we become aware of as this is brought into, our awareness, right? And if you'd had your babies right away, then you may not have investigated things like spirit baby readers, spirit baby healers, other levels of, energy work that maybe you've done some. Maybe you've never looked at Reiki, so you do. Maybe you've never done acupuncture, so it becomes part of this fertility journey. And all of these things feed into one another. All of them are like puzzle pieces, and all of them help pave the way for the pink starlights.
Yeah, everything that you just said there, I just want to piggyback and confirm, because I have done hundreds now of spirit baby readings, but I've only come across about a handful, like 4 maybe pink starlights. And those are the folks really that have just been through the ringer. on their fertility journey, or perhaps they've really just beat themselves up about, like an abortion or something, where they felt like they made a huge mistake, or they feel terrible about it, even though they don't think it was a mistake. Whatever the story,
Mhm.
they're holding on to this pain, and or experiencing a lot of trauma. Um, and so, yeah, I just wanted to confirm that. I was like going to ask that as my next question, and then you started saying it. So I'm like, oh,
The babies were just jumping ahead, saving you some time.
they were. They're just making it easy for me. That's great. I'll take it. They're not making it easy for you. They're like, okay, 50 more books. Lynsi,
Yeah.
are you ready?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, guys, I think we got it out there. No, that was called introducing the Pink Starlights. Now we've been introduced. We've got more to do. So I'm like, oh God. So
And
as
to
you
be
named your show, I love your show name. I can't tell you this enough, but The Reluctant Medium. And we were joking before about I'm going to be the reluctant Pink Starlight Whisperer or something like that, because it's just a brilliant, it's like, get on board or don't, but one way or another, you're going to do it. So you can get on board right now, or you can be put on board.
Yep, that's right. That's right. And they'll probably do it both ways for you too, because there's
Probably.
likely many books in there. To be clear, you are downloading this information from the babies.
Yeah.
I had said I've been just spreading this book everywhere, and you're like, it's the Pink Starlights book. It's the baby's book. It's,
Yeah.
it's not mine. You download this information, and it's so eloquent. If I can, it's like, that's the word that comes to mind when I think about your book, how eloquent it is. It's just, and so moving. So, I mean, the Pink Starlights book, they're so eloquent and lovely.
It's our book. It's the book that they're sending forth to all of us here on the dense planet.
Yes. Yeah. And it's right. I imagine that they need to send a lot more of that elixir really out down to us, because it is so dense here. And they need to really get into those nooks and crannies. So, so this is a really cool thing that you just told me about. There is a second edition to Waiting in the Wings, and the foreword is written by someone from the medical profession. What?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
How did that come to happen?
Someone who is actually a fertility doctor on top of that. But yes, Dr. Maribel Verdiales of CNY, she's in the Atlanta office. She is a huge, oh my gosh, she's so spiritual. And we met a few years ago, and she connects with Pink Starlights herself. She just gets it. And she was so thrilled to write the foreword for the Pink Starlight book. And that is such a big deal, because all of this time for this career of mine, which is a career that sort of got dropped into my lap, and I had to say yes, right? It was like, you can do it or not. You could say yes now or later. That's pretty much the way they put it. But I've always, I've been on the medical side of it and the spiritual side of it. And it's been part of my journey to bring them together, to help to, marry them or merge them in some way. Early on, the reproductive clinics, they didn't care about anything spiritual. They were about, science, and that's it. But as more and more people have been interested in and have really wanted spiritual support, or you can call it alternative or complementary modalities, however you want to put that. But the things that aren't, technically medical, as more and more people have been wanting that and bringing that to them, these clinics have become more and more receptive. And CNY was one that was really big on that, right from the get-go. Just a beautiful clinic. I went down and saw the one in Syracuse a few years ago, met with Dr. Kiltz, state-of-the-art lab, and yet such beautiful energy there with not bright fluorescent lights everywhere, and just such a lovely energy, just such an awesome place. And then I've seen now more and more of these clinics are moving in that direction. So yeah, huge that Dr. Verdiales, or Dr. V as she goes by, wrote the foreword. And I think the Pink Starlights were just whispering in her ear.
Yeah, likely. right? I wonder how many ears they're whispering in, because they are, you know, it's so when I connect with them, the few that I've gotten to connect with, first of all, I feel like crying immediately, just because their love is just so, mm, it's intense is the wrong word. It's like that's all there is for them. That's
Yes,
all that they are.
right.
And so I wonder about them whispering in a lot of folks' ears in order to highlight that, to
Right,
elevate that feeling, even from the other
right,
side.
right. And to help us be open and receptive to that, because we may say, love is all there is, or, I'm about love, or I'm going to focus on love, but we're also human beings and it's not always easy to do. And sometimes it's at the conscious level, it's in our mind, or we're trying to do it and we're not doing as well at being it. And so they're really helping to bring that through.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit more about, okay, so this is where I'm coming from. When I've talked with spirit babies in general compared to um, the Pink Starlights, the spirit babies in general absolutely love their parents. Their parents can do no wrong. It's just like one of the messages that they say a lot is, if you could see what I see,
Yeah.
that you would never fear again. You would just
Yeah.
always feel like everything is as it should be. There's something additional with the Pink Starlights, though, all of this difficulty that the parents have gone through. It's almost like there's an opening up for when the baby is actually in a body,
Mhm.
to like an acceptance for what they talk about and what they perceive and
Yes.
what they choose to do for their life. Do you find that too? I don't recall that, in the book, or if you've talked about that before, but can you expand on that a bit?
Yes, definitely. Um, the Pink Starlights yes, it is. Now I can't even speak because too many things are coming into my mind at the same time. But yes, definitely that heart center, the tears, that feeling of, yeah, intense isn't quite the word, but very powerful. I guess there might be a better word for that, is the energy that they're bringing through. And the parents, who are receiving them, yes, the other spirit babies, all spirit babies love their parents, and they can see, which is something that's so important to remember, because we're living in this little tiny piece of life, but there's so much more to it. And so, yes, the spirit babies, they can see that, and they love their parents. So the Pink Starlights do need the parents to be um, at as high a level as possible. Now, this isn't to say something unattainable, but so that they can come in and say what needs to be said, do what needs to be done without question. Now, they still are going to be little children, and they're going to need to be parented, but they're probably going to know a lot of things, or come out with a lot of things, say a lot of things that you're not really expecting from a little one. And that needs to be accepted. So, like the indigos, they had such a hard time, came in with a lot of trauma, had to fight. And thank goodness for the indigos, because they started getting all of this broken down for all of the other spirit babies and for the Pink Starlights to eventually come through. And so basically it's like, you have to be doing your work, have done your work, but say have done your work, but it's always a work in progress, and be open and receptive. One of my jokes is, if the baby says, it's 3 years old, baby is 3 years old, and says, hey, I need to go on a voyage to India by myself and meet with, such and such yogi, that you have to be open to that. You probably don't want to send the little one on, the trip to India by himself, but that's something that you would be willing to consider. Now, you're not necessarily going to take the child to India, but what does that mean? And investigate that, explore that with the child, and what else, whatever else they might be needing.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, right. Like there are non-negotiables. No, you may not run into the middle of the street to pick
Exactly.
up that crystal over there. Like, no, you
Right.
can't do that.
Exactly.
But right. So like the openness when some of these, quote unquote bizarre things, or, consciousness expanding things come out of a little one's mouth.
Right.
I also wonder about, um, so I talk about brainwave activity until kiddos are about 7 or so. Then they start moving up into that alpha beta state, and then they're just like the rest of us. But do you think the Pink Starlight souls, do you think that they just never, that they will always just be connected to the other side or bigger realms or higher consciousness?
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny that the brainwave frequency, it also coincides with the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. So we're very much in our subconscious as children, and up until about that age, somewhere between 5 and 7, that we begin to develop a critical faculty and begin to question things and begin to analyze things more so. Not to say that kids can't do it before them, but it begins to become more of us. And yes, we do that switch where then we are coming more from the left brain qualities. So no, the Pink Starlights will definitely hold on to this. And it's really interesting because I'm seeing them now. I've only known they called themselves a Pink Starlight since 2016. Before that, as I worked with Spirit Babies, it didn't matter. It really just didn't matter to me. It just wasn't a thing, whether or not they were crystals or rainbows or indigos or whatever that was. They were just Spirit Babies. And then in 2016, the Pink Starlights were like, okay, we have a name and you need to figure it out. Like, they didn't just give it to me. I had to meditate and I had to wait for it to drop for me. Didn't just say, here you go. But in some ways it was definitely a here you go. And I talk about that a bit in the book. Just fascinating. Just what they do and what they bring to me.
I know they're actually hilarious because
They are.
okay, the feeling that I got from the few that I was able to connect with is that they are all about love, but there is no being passive.
No. I call them bossy.
Yeah.
I call them bossy because they're like, okay, hey, here's what we need you to know. Here's what we need you to do. They hijack people. They hijacked a friend of mine. They hijack people who interview me. All of a sudden, I talk with a lot of mediums, and all of a sudden, I'm getting messages through them. I download the information. I'm very strongly claircognizant. I don't have the dialogues with them per se as you would, and as other people do, or as mediums tend to have with, with the other side. For me, it's basically a download. I know what I know. It's just there. And I pretty much can tell it's theirs because it wasn't there before. It's like, where did this come from? Okay, this is interesting. And so, yeah, but you're right. They're not passive. They need structure. And I talk about that in the book too, because we went through a period of all of these parents just letting their children sort of run the show, which is not good for children. And, we had the helicopter parents, we had the tiger parents, the snowplow parents. I don't know, there's all sorts of them. But kids weren't getting, people were so concerned about discipline being abuse, which abuse is absolutely not fine. Discipline does not have to involve yelling or hitting. Discipline is really structure. You have to get up at 7 a.m. and make your bed. Yeah, it's bedtime at 8 p.m. You take your bath first. These things are discipline. These are structures so that we can get along as adults. If we never get up, if we never, don't go to bed, where are we going to live? Because, we won't have a job and we won't have any money, and people get tired of us couch surfing. So this is sort of a foundation that is important from the parents of the Pink Starlights. They need to have that structure so that they can grow and so that they can evolve and so that they can know what they know. It is not good for the brains of children to be making decisions early on. They don't have the capacity. It's not good for them. It just causes damage overall. And so the Pink Starlights like parents who are, like I say, open-minded, intelligent, aware, and can be structured or, disciplined in their own ways, not, nothing out of balance, nothing over the top. They don't need to have, military discipline, for example, but they do need to be able to have you hold that space for them, because sometimes when you're spiritual, or people feel you're more spiritual than them, or people feel whatever, that you're more evolved, whether it be a person, whether it be the Pink Starlights, however it is, sometimes they will stop holding the space and turn it over to you. And it's when you're a little child, you can't, they were probably capable of holding the space, but at the same time they can't because they are still children.
Right. And these are still souls that have moved into a body, which has a filtering system, a brain, and all that, which is
Right.
quite difficult. But so, like, for example, the 3-year-old that wants to go to India or is clear, I'm going to India,
Right.
instead of, oh, no, that's just your imagination. Instead of that, and instead of, okay, let's book a flight, no problem, tomorrow. It's, ooh, that's great. Let's get out a journal and let's plan the trip to India
Right.
for when you're, what do you think, like 10, 12? I don't know. Let's plan it though. Cut out pictures, words, like whatever.
Yes.
And so that's that combination of structure and openness.
Exactly. Exactly. We don't have to just jump on, a flight to India, but yes, let's explore this. Maybe there's some classes around or, and there's lots of spiritual child, stuff coming, thank goodness these days, there's lots of availability, and it might be pursuing yoga might be kind of fun, meditation, and all of this can relate to this trip to India, and maybe looking at some of the yogis, for them, and just sort of see what they find interesting. But yes, cutting pictures, doing the journal, all of those, maybe buying some clothes that would, be Indian and would remind them of, what it is that they want to do and where it is that they want to go.
That's fabulous. For my son, it would be cooking. He would want to cook all the food, eat
Oh,
all the food. Yes.
perfect. Oh my gosh, if your son starts cooking Indian food, let me know because I love it.
Oh, I bet he would. He was born in Korea, so he
Oh,
loves his cult, his birth country
right.
culture and learning all about the food. And he's always wanted to cook something. He's 12 and he's just like whipping things up, you know,
Oh,
in the
that's
kitchen.
fantastic.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Me being a mediocre cook at best, it's nice when he wants to cook dinner. I'm like, no problem.
It's
Have at it.
amazing. Both of mine cook, and they're both well, one's married, the other one will be married in a few weeks, and they my gosh, they cook, and they cook beautiful meals, and their wives can cook, but they don't have to.
Oh,
And same with me. My husband is like that, and we're vegetarians. And he's this amazing. He's not officially a vegetarian chef, but he certainly could be. He makes incredible things, and he taught them, I guess, that's some of that, or they learned by osmosis. But yeah, they cook amazing meals for
that's
their
so great.
little families. So it's great.
Well, it sounds like we need to head over there.
Yeah, maybe so. Bring your son, and we'll put him in the kitchen with the others, and we'll see what we end up with. Right?
Yeah. Both my husband and I are average. It's YouTube. YouTube has taught my son a lot about food.
And that's great, but he wants to know too. And this is the kind of thing. What if your child wants to learn to cook or wants to look into,
Oh, yeah.
cuisine? And what if you just said, no, I'm sorry, you're a boy. You will play football for this
Ew.
year, and then you will play baseball or whatever it is that we decide that they need to be doing. Or if you're a person who's going to be adamant that they take piano lessons, or it doesn't matter what it is, academics, you got to have some flexibility. We have to have some flexibility for them. And again, it's like that balance is with that structure and being open-minded and receptive. And then also, being a guide.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, and if I don't think that my son is a pink starlight, but it is that he's quite curious about various things, and that's an example of having the structure, but also the discipline. So, like, yeah, you can try whatever you'd like. You just have to finish what you started. You can't quit in the middle of whatever it is, and
Right.
then move on.
Right.
So, I'm wondering about my second son, though. I wonder if he's pink starlight.
It's funny you should mention that because the Pink Starlights are like, you need to do a talk or a workshop on is your child a pink starlight? Or
Yes.
is your grandchild a pink starlight? Or maybe you're a kindergarten teacher and you're working with pink starlights, and how to identify them. So I'm like, okay, guys, I'll get to that. It's been, my specialty has been fertility for all of these years. But this is going to expand some for the pink starlights, needs to because they've been coming through. I'm not the only person who brings them through. I'm apparently the person that they decided should make people aware of that. And, I do specialize with them, but there are pink starlights out there. And just like with the indigos and the others, there are scouts that come ahead, or they begin to trickle in before they begin to flow or flood. And so there are pink starlights that are here, and they are, at least I would say, 7 or 8 years old, that are here, and they may be shifting, or you may recognize pink starlight qualities in them. The crystal children have a lot of similarities, I would say, to the pink starlights, although the pink starlights are just a little bit more, I guess, focused in terms of their specific mission.
Oh, thank you for that clarity. Okay, because there have been some babies that have come through that I've asked directly because they feel so similar to a pink starlight. I'll ask directly, are you a pink starlight? And they'll say no, but we associate with them. We're related in some way. And I never really understood that. I didn't know where to take that.
Right.
So that makes sense. Okay. And I've never heard of crystal children.
Okay, so those were the kind of the big ones for the longest time, the indigos, crystals, and rainbows.
Okay.
You hear a lot about star seeds. That's an interesting term because I heard a lot about it probably 30 years ago, and then it kind of vanished. And then it got really big again. So then people are like, are the pink starlight star seeds? And I'm not really sure. It's my understanding that the star seeds are sort of an umbrella for all the others. But I don't know a lot of the layers. And, there's a lot of the, Pleiades and Lemuria and the galaxies and so forth. That's not a direction. I mean, I'm aware of it, but the pink starlights, that's not something that we need, or that their parents need to facilitate bringing them through, if that makes any sense. But the crystals were basically the softer ones after the indigos paved the way and they broke things down. Then the crystals were more psychic and softer, and not having to have that hard shell that you need to survive abuse or trauma, or hard things, really hard things that the indigos ended up having to deal with. Breaking down the way schools were, the religious stuff, things that were going on within, the churches or things like that weren't okay, and that had been swept under the carpet for how long. The indigos came in to start breaking that down. And so the crystals were able to come in and bring some more energy, some lightness, and be a little bit softer and quite psychic themselves. And my son, Dylan, who's the one who kind of kicked all this off by showing up as a spirit baby to me when I wasn't supposed to have another child. This was about 30 years ago. And I talk about him in the 3 Keys to Conception as a crystal, but I can see where the pink starlights and the crystals certainly overlap. But maybe the pink starlights are a little bit more specifically focused, with crystals bringing in that light and that kindness and that energy, that the pink starlights are refining it and maybe pointing it a little bit more in a specific direction.
Okay. And what about the rainbows, the rainbow babies? What were they?
The rainbows, that's an interesting one. The rainbows are said to be basically children of the crystals. So any crystal children that get together and have their children, their babies are rainbow. And the rainbow is in the aura. So the crystal is a clear aura that can reflect all the colors. The rainbows have a rainbow aura. The indigos, indigo aura. Pink starlights, I'm going to go with pink since they decided to put it right into their name. And so I don't know a lot about the rainbows, but interestingly, the term rainbow baby is also now used for the baby sort of at the end of the rainbow. So after there's been loss and then having that baby. So they're actually two different applications.
Yes, right. That's when you say rainbow baby, that's of course immediately where I go is the fertility
Right.
stuff, right? Folks say, this is my rainbow baby. You have angel babies who have passed on and
Yes.
rainbow babies who's made it into a body successfully and right at
Right.
the end of a fertility journey. But right. So, okay. So from the spiritual perspective, a rainbow baby is the child of two crystal
That's my
babies.
understanding. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Doreen Virtue used to talk a lot about that. Now she's no longer in our world, but
Right.
she does have, there was a little small book about rainbows and crystals that she had put out. And honestly, that's where I mostly got my information on the rainbows was from her. So there wasn't a lot.
I'm curious about that now. Uh-oh. You may have created a rabbit hole.
Here
Thanks,
we
Lynsi.
go. All sorts of rabbit holes. It's not me. Blame the Pink
I
Starlights.
know. Well, it seems like we can blame them for a lot.
I know, right? It's like, oh, I forgot to get gas in the car. Oh, because of Pink
I know.
Starlights.
It's the Pink Starlight. I
I'm
hear
pretty
it. I
sure that they will
feel them
give us
laughing.
yeah, I think they will like give us a little energetic flick if we try that.
I kind of feel their humor, though. They're really
Yeah,
funny. And
they are. They do have humor and lightness. They really want to bring humor into the world and lightness. Everyone's so serious right now, and everyone's so frightened. And I shouldn't say everyone, but that's kind of the overall experience we're having right now. People are fighting, people are arguing, people are name calling, all those kinds of things. Nobody has the humor that we need, and humor is really helpful. And a lot of doctors or practitioners will recommend their fertility clients watch some funny movies and go to a comedy show, tell some jokes, whatever that is, because it actually shifts the energy, it shifts the cells of our bodies, it shifts our brains. So it's really powerful.
it 100% does. Though, of course, we don't want to discount trauma or anything,
No,
not make light
not
of
at
it.
all.
They would never do that either. But
No.
it does feel to me like they are introducing, especially what I get a lot with the times that I've connected with them, most of those times have been about the parents really loving themselves a whole lot, just as much as the babies love them. They just want to
Right.
send all the love. And it's like
Right.
words are so limiting. I'm like, dang it,
No,
I wish
that's
I could
true.
tell you.
I know it is so true. And yes, definitely humor is a tool, but it doesn't, discount or dismiss any trauma, anything anyone has been through. And so, certainly sometimes we just can't laugh. But once in a while, if we can get a laugh in it, it really does help us.
It
It can be
sure
really,
does.
really good for us. So if there's any time that we can do that, it's always a good thing. Or for example, when somebody's done an IVF or even not, and they're in the 2-week wait, one way or the other, watching some funny movies or laughing at something that just helps. It just helps ease tension, and it just helps overall to provide a nice energy or a bit more balance for a person.
It sure does. Boy, now I'm wondering about, spirit babies. And before we had our first, my husband and I were in a therapy session. I write about this in my book, and he was so terrible, the therapist,
Oh,
that
geez.
we left that office and we finally started reconnecting and rekindling our marriage because we just started laughing at the absurdity of this therapist. And now I'm like, was that you, spirit babies? Because people ask me, did I connect with my babies before I had them?
Right.
And I didn't. I wasn't in that space. I was very left brain therapist myself, right?
Right.
So what's new with these babies? What are they? They're telling you about some workshops you have to do.
I know they are definitely, and
They are
they've
so
come up.
bossy.
They are bossy. Ask anybody, and it's funny because I'll be talking to someone. Like, there's a lot of mediums in my world these days. Like, I encounter you guys every which way, and they'll just hijack the poor medium for a minute to give me a message, which is just hilarious. And it's, oh, another book, or it's another program, or it's this or that. And it's like, I know you already dumped it into my head. And they're like, well, Well, we're just going to give you another little boost here, but they did have me create an attunement for them. So this has to do with the light and bringing them into the world. So they come in. One of the things they do is they come in and they bring light and a higher light frequency. They come in as the people. So they're the people that are, going to be, they're growing up, they're running the planet. They'll be in positions of, they'll be teachers and, doctors, they'll be, presidents, whatever it is that they're going to be. And that's them as the people or as the humans that they're going to be. And then they're also bringing this high frequency in of love, and they're healers. They also are high level healers. So they're bringing a lot of healing energy through. And so, like you said, for parents to be working on their own healing is really helpful. Different babies come into our world for different reasons. And even though we don't like the idea of some of the things that we may have chosen, consciously, I wouldn't have chosen that, but we did because it's all part of it. It's all part of, I don't know, the workshop of life, if you want to call it that. So the Pink Starlights and helping with this bottlenecking, and I lived in Chicago for a couple of years, and I always think of this when they show me the bottlenecking was the tolls, and all these people, like the Chicago traffic is unreal, and then you narrow down to pay the tolls, and then all these people are trying to get out, and it's not like they're real courteous drivers there in Chicago. Sorry guys, but and so. I just see that in my head that the energy is bottlenecking. There's lots of light workers on the planet, but there's lots that are being activated, need to be activated. Folks like you who maybe didn't initially connect with your spirit baby, but that's come around to you and for you. And it's something you can't exactly resist, is it?
Oh, it's heavily
or otherwise.
It's heavily in there. Yep.
Yep. I've always, I did Reiki way back in 94. And it was like Dylan showed up, my youngest son showed up in about 93 to tell me that he was on his way. And too bad you're not having another kid or not supposed to. It doesn't matter. I'm coming. Here's my name. Here's what we're doing. And I did end up being dropped into Reiki. And I'm going to guess that was a spirit baby thing and learning Reiki. And I eventually, taught it and so forth. But I got the first 2 levels before I got pregnant with Dylan. And the third level, the master teacher, I got when I was pregnant with Dylan. So he came through with Reiki master teacher energy. So,
wow.
We can attune our kids to Reiki. When I learned it, my other son was 5. And so I did the Reiki attunements for him and he practiced Reiki. And, that's never gone. It's always with you. Sometimes we don't use it. Or get, off onto some other track. But I've always said to people who are struggling, I have said, have you done Reiki? Have you gotten a treatment, even a first level attunement? The babies really like it. And
you are blowing my mind right now. I have to tell you something after you're done with your thought. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's awesome. They really like Reiki. I haven't practiced it myself. I do it. It's part of me. But I've not had like where people come in specifically for a Reiki treatment. But it is part of me and it's part of my energy and I do use it. But I send people off to, can you find a Reiki practitioner near you? Is there a Reiki class? A lot of times they're like, I've been thinking about Reiki. I encourage you to do it because it just helps you to open up to more light. And so with the Reiki, I've been just sending people all over the place for that. And it's great. A lot of times people have tried Reiki. And when I started doing Reiki, God, nobody had even heard of it, or they thought it was just, way woo-woo. And at that time, woo-woo wasn't cool. And now it's in hospitals and, it's being taught in universities. There's all sorts of neat stuff about it. But that doesn't matter. What's important is the energy that comes through. And so with that, they've also decided I need to do a Pink Starlight attunement for them. Now, that is not me. Once again, that is them. But they have me go through a ritual and set up, I set it all up for them. There's, a crystal layout and certain energy. They had me use certain music. And then I use a little hypnosis to guide the person and then step aside, basically, to let the Pink Starlights come through and attune them.
Oh, apparently I must be a part of this at some point. Whenever you're going to be doing this. When's the next one? Is this a live thing?
So far, I've done the attunements one-on-one. Now, obviously, I can. How many, one-on-ones can I possibly do, right? How many Pink Starlights are coming through? So they did hijack another medium recently to tell me that, yes, it would be quite fine to do it in groups and online. So
that makes sense.
It's still
all energy.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm still working on, figuring that out. I'm doing a free introduction basically to HypnoFertility workshop, but the babies have also decided I also need to do some Reiki workshops. I'm going to do a free Reiki workshop. I don't have the date yet. I think it's going to be in August, but initially it will be for Reiki practitioners who are already certified, whether level 1, 2, it doesn't matter, but to upgrade them because there are higher frequencies now. And I don't know if you've heard of Holy Fire Reiki, but that's really interesting because that's come through very, very high energy, high frequency, like the Pink Starlights. And anyone who's trained in Reiki, I don't know if you are, but anyone who's trained in Reiki, every time we get an attunement, I mean, it always benefits us. And it's encouraged that people get more attunements, so if you have a friend who's a Reiki master, trade out attunements. So this is one of the things I'm going to be doing is to help, I guess, can I say ignite? It's interesting because Holy Fire has to do with ignitions, but to ignite that higher frequency, I think maybe help to bring more of that into, into our worlds, into the planet, into our lives.
Well, I think we're definitely supposed to be speaking today because this is what happened. You are so claircognizant. Did you know you're claircognizant?
I do know. Yeah. I kind of do. Yes.
So I have been very resistant to Reiki. I don't know why. I'm the reluctant medium. Like I'm reluctant all over the place. So, but I have been getting information about Reiki to have not wanted to do it. I have, however, been very interested in shamanism. And somebody said to me recently, again, why don't you just get Reiki trained, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't, why do you keep telling me this, universe? Well, I'm looking at the Omega Institute in New York.
Yeah.
One of my favorite places. I'm looking at their catalog and what is in there but freaking shamanic Reiki.
Of course there is.
Like, of course. So I look into it and I'm like, gosh, I just don't think I can get there. I go to the teacher's website. They are 5 hours from me up in Washington State in August. And I'm going.
All right.
Levels 1 and 2. I'm like, apparently I'm supposed to get certified in Reiki. And then if I don't know when your Pink Starlight attunement is, or wait, was that something else in August?
That's something else. Yeah.
Something else.
In August, they're going to have me do a level 1 upgrade to Holy Fire Reiki for anyone who's done Reiki already, whether it be level 1 or not. I'm doing a free upgrade for Reiki. I will eventually do Reiki trainings for people who haven't been trained, but I'm starting out with folks that have already been trained. And this is this is to help bring more light into the world. And Reiki, I mean, you always have to value your practitioners, absolutely, but sometimes Reiki can be really, really expensive or not easy to access. One of the issues, I get you being resistant to Reiki because I actually was feeling resistant to it back in the late 90s when all of a sudden everyone was a Reiki master teacher, and everywhere you went, I'm a Reiki master teacher, and I'm a Reiki master teacher, and I'm a Reiki master teacher, and people weren't even getting proper training. They were getting where someone would, print a certificate off their home computer for them and say, here you go, you're certified in Reiki, but certified by whom? And what exactly? And, there wasn't, in a lot of cases, there wasn't any type of structure or, protocol originally people were certified, and there are steps to it. There's something, it's a thing.
Oh yeah.
And eventually people were, oh, I can get, I'll do Reiki for you for $50. Here's your certificate, but it wasn't Reiki. Or it might have been a little bit of Reiki, just that whole thing. We won't even go off onto that tangent, but I can see you feeling resistant to it, because I was feeling that for a long time. And then people, have been, legitimate people have been practicing it and researching it and getting it out there. And William Rand has the international, what is it called? International Center for Reiki Training, I believe is what it's called. He's been around since the late 80s doing Reiki. He was one of the only ones around when I trained in 93 or 94. And in fact, my Reiki teacher used his book at that time for my Reiki certification. Wow. And so, yeah, it's really kind of neat, because he's done so much, and anything you want to know about Reiki, you can find out, on their website. Yeah. Wow. So I feel like he's done a great service to Reiki. And so have all the people who have practiced it professionally, taught it professionally, and brought it out there for people.
Yeah. And what is it that the babies like about Reiki energy? And is it all spirit babies or Pink Starlights we're talking about specifically?
Honestly, it's all spirit babies, because I've been suggesting Reiki for people ever since I started working with the HypnoFertility. And and I don't say it right off the bat. I'm not like, oh, how are you? You need to go to Reiki. It'll come to me when I'm talking to the person. Have you considered Reiki? Have you done a treatment or an attunement? Sometimes if they've done a treatment, maybe get a level 1 attunement. Maybe they've gotten an attunement. Maybe they're all the way through Reiki master teacher, but they need some treatments. They need some sessions from someone, because we can, heal thyself, right? We can work on ourselves, but sometimes we need someone else to hold that space. So it is definitely energy and light. And I don't know that it has to be Reiki per se. It's just that I'm familiar with Reiki, but Reiki is channeling that universal life force energy. It's very spiritual. It's very high level. The Holy Fire now, the Reiki master doesn't even do the attunement as we used to do. We used to, we'd have to do this. It was a whole ritual. We'd have to, walk around the person, put symbols into their auras, into their crown chakras, into their hands, and so forth. Now it's basically a setup where it's very similar actually to what the Pink Starlights have set up, in that the, teacher has been aligned to the energy and then holds the space, and the Reiki itself, the Holy Fire Reiki, comes through and ignites that Reiki that's within.
Oh, wow. Oh,
I wasn't into Holy Fire. I was like, I trained in Usui Reiki, which is the one that's most common, back in 90, I could say, I think it was 94, one or the other. Anyway, a long time ago, 30 years. And I was quite happy with that. And I heard about Holy Fire Reiki, and I think that came out around 06, maybe, or maybe later than that. Anyway, sorry if I don't have my dates right, but more recently anyway. And I thought, Holy Fire, that doesn't even appeal to me. I thought it was maybe religious. I knew it wasn't, but it kind of sounds religious. And then the babies decided I needed to learn Karuna Reiki. And this was an offshoot of Reiki that actually William Rand developed a few years ago. And it utilizes more symbols. And it's really quite fascinating. And I wanted to learn that. And I contacted a woman who I had certified in Reiki in, I think, 98. And now she is doing Reiki. She was a Universal Unitarian minister for 30 some odd years. And her husband is a mentor of mine. So Dr. Scott Giles and Dr. Lynsi Bates, I know them. He was a mentor of mine in hypnosis. I trained her in Reiki. How do you like that for for the universe, or the Pink Starlights, or who knows, just all of these not coincidences, right? I don't believe in that word. So synchronicities, all of that kind of thing. So I emailed her or texted her or something and said, I think you're teaching Karuna Reiki, right? And she said, yes, but you have to have the Holy Fire upgrade first. I'm like, really? She's like, Yep. And so I have the Holy Fire one, and then the next month I have the Karuna one. And it was really funny. I got my Holy Fire Reiki, I think it was the weekend before I went to Peru.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
on this goddess trip to Peru with this awesome woman who leads she leads these retreats every year. She's a Jungian psychologist, Dr. Anna Marie Fidel Rice. I guess I am name dropping today, but if I'm talking about them, I feel like I should give credit where credit is due, right? And she does these awesome retreats to Peru, women's retreats, and I always wanted to do it. And it'd been like 10 years every year. And I finally ended up doing it. And I went there with this Holy Fire Reiki and practiced this on this holy ground. And in the resort we stayed in, they have chakra gardens, and each garden is filled with plants that are colored the color of the chakras, crystals, energy, symbols. It's amazing. And I was practicing it there, which was just incredible. But also when we did the Reiki, the Holy Fire attunements, it about knocked my socks off. And I thought, the way it's done, I'm used to, well, I have to stand in front of the person and they have to hold their hands a certain way, I have to walk around and, I'll do all these things, and you don't. And so there I am sitting in my office, and Lynsi's conducting the attunement, and I am starting to just boil or bake or something. And I could just feel this energy, and I'm vibrating, and it's the Holy Fire Reiki itself coming through to you.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
it's like, wow, this is incredible. So I'm so glad that the baby said, find out about Karuna Reiki, which I really haven't had any time to practice because Holy Fire absorbed me. And yeah, so that's what I'll be doing with the free upgrade workshop, will be the Holy Fire level 1. And eventually it's like the babies are saying, I have a private practice. I can't, how many people can you see in private practice? So they're like, let's get some things together online, and let's get some light flowing, and let's get some light workers activated, or let's, sometimes people will take a training, but then they don't use it. And then 10 years later, 20 years later, they're like, oh, okay, I need to do this now. And I kind of want to be that synchronicity. If I can be there when they decide, oh, my Reiki's rusty, or, any of that kind of thing. Or maybe I want to learn about HypnoFertility. Maybe I want to do that for myself. Maybe I want to work with people, but to have that knowledge available.
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling the need to have a Pink Starlight attunement at some point. Because that's, slightly closely related to what I do.
Slightly closely related. Well, I'll tell you what, when we're done with this, we'll get you in the book. We'll schedule you. You'll be all set. We'll have your Pink Starlight attunement.
That'd be awesome. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I have one final question. You had said that, this is repeating a little bit about what you said before about the babies coming in, the Pink Starlights coming in. Did you say that, did I hear you correctly, that they are sort of trickling in and then there's going to be a flood?
Yes. They've been trickling. They're kind of on the verge of pouring, but there's definitely a flood up and coming. And it's a matter of really the parents, obviously it's one set of parents or one parent at a time that's bringing in a Pink Starlight. And then at the same time, it's the light energy that we need in general. So we all hold light to various degrees, and it's going to be more and more of that high frequency that we can raise in ourselves, and then can hold that level of light for the babies to come in.
I see.
Does that make sense? So sometimes a frequency, like even a radio frequency or something, can be too high and it hurts our ears, or it gives us and that's kind of what's happening a bit with the light. Is there's so much that's coming through, and more of us need to be able to hold it, or hold the space for it, and receive it in. And then not everybody's going to be a light worker. Not everybody's going to believe any of this or care anything about this, but we're still going to be elevating the light for everybody, for the planet.
So an individual listening to this who is wondering if they are meant to invite a Pink Starlight into their life, whether through pregnancy or adoption or whatever, it sounds to me and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds to me like you're encouraging them to work on elevating their own frequency
Yeah,
through spiritual
absolutely.
work or okay.
Yep.
Okay.
If you're feeling like you've been guided to do something, look into it, whatever it might be. You might have a friend that does Reiki, or any of these things. It doesn't have to be Reiki, but anything that you're feeling guided to do.
Maybe it's
Absolutely. Any type of
shamanic
light work,
Reiki.
shamanic Reiki, other type of shamanic practice. It could be anything at all, but definitely energy work. I mean, acupuncture, they work with the meridians. There's a lot of energy work involved. It just doesn't seem maybe as obvious because they're working with, needles, and it's a little bit more, I almost call it active, just because you can see it in terms of, if you have needles in your head or your arms or whatever, whereas with some of the other energy work like Reiki, you don't necessarily see it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, absolutely, raising that light, elevating that light. Love, that whole love piece. And we talk about it, but sometimes we just can't quite get there. But it's just a bit of work every day, a little bit, even if just for a minute, and starting with loving yourself, and then it goes from there outward.
Yeah. Yeah. Even something that's free, like a yoga practice or something. This morning I did a yoga
Yeah.
practice that she had us in a pose where she said, "Oh, look, you can just take your thumbs right now and massage the soles of your feet." Such a lovely little self-love practice. And I went,
Yeah,
yeah, it's just so
exactly.
simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and bringing your own awareness to what you're doing, because sometimes we get so busy and it's like, okay, yoga is Monday at 9, and then I go to acupuncture, and then I go to work for a couple hours, and then I got to drive over here, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to, meditate tonight. And then and it's like, well, okay, you got some spiritual or self-care things in there, but how well are they working for you when you're rushing them? When you're
Right.
crushing them, right? You're crushing them into your days. And anything, if it's going to overwhelm you, if it's going to be, too much, then don't do it, or let go of something else. And a lot of times I find in the infertility struggles, people are doing a lot of modalities and maybe want to let go of something, but they're afraid to.
Yep.
And they want to try something new, but either they keep cramming it in, which is just not helpful, or it's okay if you want to let go of something. It's just time. Just tune into yourself. And if you want to not take that supplement or some supplements, or, some other modality that you're doing, maybe you've been doing chiropractic for a long time, you like a break, it's okay. Whatever you're doing, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting what happens when somebody does let go, because I was in that same state in the trying to conceive crazy monster that it was, that as soon as I actually listened to myself and let go of
Yeah.
like the idea that I had to fly across to some fertility statue and like pray around it or something, like
Right.
I would have done anything. When I started letting go, it was like, oh, I actually feel more fertile inside, right? It's like there's more
Right.
space in there.
Right.
So,
Well, we try to
yeah.
do babies, right? And then so many of my clients are type A, and they're achievers, and they do things, and they've accomplished things, and they want to just do this baby, right? Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Um, and I know how we are. I know how we think and what we do. And we always have to be aware of that. All of us, every single type A is not a negative term. Most of us just call ourselves that. But, achiever, overachiever, doer, whatever you want to, call that, control freak, doesn't matter. We do need to balance these things. We
Yeah.
do need to balance them. And we need to be receptive. So it's a receiving of the baby. Now you need to do things. You can't just sit there and, not get any treatment, not have sex, not, do anything, and a baby's going to miraculously appear. But you can do what you can do. And whatever that is, you can think about what it is that you can do. And maybe it's timed intercourse, or maybe it's looking into an IUI, or maybe it's changing fertility clinics, or maybe it's, going to hypnosis, or going to see you as a spirit baby reader, or whatever else it might be. And, hear that and change that, make space for it. So you can do that. And then once you decide what you're going to do, let go. Let go is not always easy, but it is to balance intention and surrender. And that's what we're going to balance, is basically,
Ah,
if that makes sense.
oh, yes. Oh, yes. And when you do create that space, that's when you will feel that connection to that that wordless, it's just so hard to describe that connection with the babies on the other side, especially Pink Starlights. When you have that space, they'll be on the other side like,
right. And
yay!
they're always there. Sometimes we just don't notice, or we dismiss that. Oh, I'm just crazy. I was just a dream, whatever that is, but they are there. And, grandmas and grandpas and everybody else, if you're picking up on the baby, you're picking up on the baby. You are.
And that's, I think, a lot of the fear that folks have is that they're just making it up. But, I get practical. I say, just ask for that same thing 3 times, and then you can put it in your bucket of, well, I can't really explain that, so maybe. And then over time,
bit by bit, then you'll be like us, and you won't believe in coincidences, and you'll be all about synchronicities. And, if you allow that to happen, it does. And, I don't really mean to say just let go, because just let go. Yeah, not so much. That's like telling an insomniac, what, just go to sleep.
Yeah.
But it's a process, and it's something that we all remind ourselves of. And that's why we do, other sessions or work in other modalities and have our own, Reiki treatments or readings or whatever else it is for our own reminders. So it's a matter of being balanced that way too.
Yeah. And eventually you'll be like us, where they tell you to do stuff all the time.
And they are bossy. So if they want you to do something, then you're not listening. I always say that the universe, gives you some signs and then it drops a boulder on you. Well, the Pink Starlights, they definitely like to drop boulders, and they definitely do have a bit of a sense of humor about it, but sometimes it's not as funny when the boulder lands on you.
Oh. Well, they're not dropping any boulders through my awareness today. So yay, you're safe.
Because you're listening and paying attention. You're going to your Reiki shaman training. So no boulder necessary today.
I mean, for you, they're not telling me anything to tell you.
Oh goodness. Yes. I've been listening, and I've been working on the workshops that they want for the last few weeks. I've been doing a lot with that. So, it's trying to get them scheduled and timing. And then, I have clients all over the world. So one time of day doesn't necessarily work for everybody. So, scheduling, aligning, but everything's coming,
the practical dense stuff. They're like,
right.
Being a human.
Right. I know. I remind them sometimes. I go, remember, we have a linear existence, even if we don't want it or like it, and we have to go by certain rules and laws of gravity and such. So, give us a bit of a break, right, guys? But yes, we're open and receptive. We're doing our best.
Yes, and time zones. Hello.
Oh, time zones. Yeah.
Lynsi, thank you so much for this chat. I love talking about the Pink Starlight Spirit Babies. They're just such a delight. And you are a delight. I know you don't take any credit for their work, but I'm so glad that you listen. I'm so glad for the benefit of all.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to be here. It's always fun to talk with you. And thanks for everyone who's listening, because it's just been really fun to talk about them. I mean, they really are pretty interesting. And thank you.
I'm hoping you got a useful nugget or two from today's podcast episode. May you be well, and I'll see you next time.